I'm going to give you 5 names that make sense for the Chicago Bears to replace Declan Doyle as offensive coordinator of the team with, and it starts right now. Now, if you are new to the channel, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the page, man. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. Only channel to talk Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you stay in tune with us. Now, 2 of these names on the list are outside of the organization. 3 of these names are inside the organization. I want to start with some of the names outside of the organization because I think that this could be really big for the Bears. And there's some names that just feel like they make really good sense to bring in here. Whether you go out and you add the guys within the organization or not, there's some names that, or you promote the guys within the organization. There's some names that would be really good on this staff. Number 1, Tanner Engstrand. I think this is probably one of the most obvious choices of a guy that you could add to this team because of his relationship with Ben Johnson. He went over with Aaron Glenn to be the offensive coordinator over there, has been dismissed after 1 year of his time over in New York. And now he's somebody who was on Ben Johnson's staff in Detroit for years. He served as the passing game coordinator there for 3 years. Makes a ton of sense to go out there and add to this team, in my opinion. It has play calling experience now, but of course you're not coming here to be the play caller. You're coming here to learn. And I think that would be something that would be very beneficial for you, right? Somebody who's already been on the staff, can help this passing game along. And listen, the passing game needs some help this year, right? You can't sit here and talk about everything that we saw this season and all the good that we had and just ignore everything else that went down. There were some needs for this passing game that I think this Bears team is going to have to take advantage of. And I think somebody like Tanner Engstrand could bring that here. Remember, he was the passing game coordinator in Detroit for one of the best passing offenses in football. And so I think there's some really good ways that you could help this offense along. To me, I think that you come in, you're rebuilding your brand, right? Because when you take a hit like he took in New York, where an offense that just didn't work, a passing offense, and listen, we all know, right? Maybe you didn't have the pieces to get the job done there. Maybe, there was some disconnect between him and Justin, whatever it was, or maybe you just didn't have the talent to go out there and get the job done. But we know that a season like that can absolutely be a hit to your brand and what teams are looking at for you to come in and be a play caller again. They're going to say, well, you couldn't get it done here and you had no semblance of an offense. I mean, legitimately, we saw some of the worst offenses I've ever seen in my life with the New York Jets. And so to me, I think it makes a heck of a lot of sense if you are a guy like Tanner to say, I want to go rebuild my brand, be an OC here. I've got play calling experience. And if I'm a part of a successful offense, I now get the opportunity to go out and actually have something positive attached to my name when I go into these interviews. And it gets you those interview offers again. I think he could be somebody who could come in, again, look ahead, scout things out, and be very helpful in that manner, while also learning on the job as well. There's a lot of good that could come from that, and I think it's a pretty obvious name. Let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. Would Tanner Engstrand be somebody that you feel would be a good fit for the Chicago Bears here? Let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Here's number 2 for me on the list, and this is the second guy that's outside of the organization. We've talked about him a ton on this channel. It's been Will Lawing. He was favored to the Chicago Bears when he left the job at BC. The relationship there with Ben Johnson, I think, is one that you point to and say, listen, you've got a really good relationship already. You were teammates in college. He was a wide receiver in college, so maybe something to help the wide receivers along as well. Will Lawing, somebody I want on the staff no matter what. Like, honestly, like, even if the Chicago Bears were to promote within, I think he's somebody that makes a heck of a lot of sense. You're going out there and getting an opportunity, again, very similar to Tanner, right? Where you get this, I get to learn under Ben Johnson, but also I get to be a part of a winning organization. Crazy to say that about the Chicago Bears, but I get to be a part of a winning organization. I get to be on a really good staff that is going to teach me a lot of things and give me the weaponry that I need to understand, okay, this is what I need to be successful in in the NFL. He's worked a ton with Bill O'Brien. He was the OC in his time at Boston College, and now coming back to the NFL. Is he coming back to the NFL for an offensive coordinator position, or just trying to get himself into some of those NFL coaching circles? I think the opportunities that the Chicago Bears could provide are very, very exciting. And so no matter what, I love what Will Lawing could bring. And because of some of the internal hires that I think the Bears could do, I actually look at Will Lawing as somebody, like I said, who I want on the staff no matter what, because I think there's a value that he brings. He was a tight ends coach with Bill O'Brien in the NFL. He comes over to Houston. I believe he was a tight ends coach there. Was a quality offensive quality control guy for some years with Bill, and worked his way up to OC in the college game. Coming here, I think there's a little bit of a curveball, but again, you're adding somebody in, and I think this is a conversation to have with all of these guys. And I've said this a ton. I love the fact that Ben Johnson's going the Mike Holmgren route, bringing guys in that can design plays, that can call plays, that have offensive minds, and okay, we see this with Caleb, we could make this work. I think this would be another one of those, a guy that you have waiting in the wings, because you're going to have guys that are going to get interviews, that are going to get job offers, that are going to get conversations had with them about possibly moving on from the Bears every single year. So you want to have as many of these guys like Will Lawing in the building as you can, and hopefully that's something that benefits the Bears in the long run. I think it's going to be something that's very good for them. And to me, I love the fact that he's in this conversation. Let's see if he's somebody that the Bears could bring in. Would you rather see the Bears go outside of the organization to hire somebody, or would you like to see some of the names that I'm going to list here inside the organization, or maybe one that you have on your own? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys, like I said, as well, because the Bears have some really, really good names within the organization. Started off with the obvious one. I think this is the one that, to me, everybody is talking about if you were going to promote somebody into that role. Although he is the assistant head coach on this team, Antwaa Randel is going to have to eventually take on that offensive coordinator role, probably, so that he can get some looks. And I think what's very interesting is the value that Randel brings as a leader is why you make him your assistant head coach, right? The value that you get from Antwaa Randel, of him as a leader on this team, is somebody who goes out there and make sure that everybody is on point, right? Make sure that everybody knows what their job is and is doing their job, while also being a teacher of that wide receiver position. You love that. But realistically speaking, those guys don't really get looks for head coaches, right? Especially in this modern NFL, where you want guys that have some level of play calling experience. Now, again, you're not going to see a ton of play calling here with the Chicago Bears. Maybe you see moments, right? I think there were a couple of moments where I did see Declan Doyle calling plays, and I can't confirm whether he did or didn't, but I know there were moments where the camera was on Ben. He's not making a call. Caleb gets a call as they go back, and all of a sudden there's a play on the field. Those are the moments that you can kind of assume somebody else is maybe throwing a play there. I asked J-Mac about that. He says sometimes there's like a wristband where there's certain plays that a coach has drawn up or something like that that coach can go to. And so he flips over and he goes, yo, Declan, like, this is your call. Relay that into Caleb to get them that experience. I think that's going to be very big, for guys that are coming up in this. And so not going to be a ton of play calling experience for Antwaa Randel here, but the opportunity to be an offensive coordinator and learn what that is like, I think that's going to be massive for his future of being a head coach in this NFL. I don't know whether he wants to be a head coach in the league or not, but when you talk about bringing somebody on as your assistant head coach, probably means that he's looking to have a higher level of responsibility to eventually ascend to being that head coach level. Nobody wants to be the assistant GM and not become the GM, although say what you want about Ian Cunningham. Everybody calm down. Everybody relax in the comments there. But no, like you want to get to the point where you are the guy calling the shots. And so I think this would be a great role for Antwaa Randel. I think it would be one that he would thrive at. And I think that's why I talked about, the possibility of bringing Will Lawing on as a coach on this team, because he played wide receiver in college. And so when you take that into account, right, that you have a former wide receiver in college coming in to possibly teach your wide receivers while still having Antwaa Randel on the team as your assistant head coach or possibly your OC, I think it gives you just another step, right, for Antwaa Randel to move up while having that next guy in line for the possible succession. It also kind of takes away the I hired my friend to take this job over guys that were in the building. That, I'll be honest with you, I think there are multiple guys in this building that are qualified to take the job. Antwaa Randel is the obvious name for me. I think he would be a really good fit, and I think it gives him that opportunity for play calling jobs in other places. Right, this is probably like Declan Doyle, a 2-year thing. Whoever you move into this spot gets some experience as OC, ends up getting an OC job where they get to call plays, and then eventually you ascend to that level of head coach. But so giving those guys the stepping stones that you want to see there. I think another name that to me is in-house and maybe is a little bit under the radar, but you have to give him so much credit for the development and the growth that you saw at the quarterback position this year. And that's JT Barrett, an in-house candidate. He was behind Declan Doyle. He was the quarterback's coach, so he worked closely with Caleb. And realistically speaking, and again, talking to former players and things like that, probably the closest guy that Caleb had in that building. Now, very good that he was close in age, right, to where Caleb is. I think JT Barrett 31. So yeah, Caleb's younger, but there's a little bit more relatableness there. Very similar with Declan Doyle, but every time that you saw Caleb on the sideline, who's sitting there with the iPad? It wasn't Declan Doyle. It was JT Barrett sitting there saying, this is what you want to see. Him and Case Keenum, I think, are two really, really interesting names on this team for possible promotion in some way if Case is done playing and he wants to, come be a coach. I would love to have that kind of succession step in where you say, Case, we'd love to have you here as a head coach as a quarterback's coach for this team, but also we want to move JT Barrett into this next role. I think JT would be perfect for this because of the relationship that he has with Caleb, because he's going to understand and continue working with Caleb, because he's been in that building and knows what's going to work well for Caleb and has gotten to have conversations that maybe Declan Doyle and Ben Johnson weren't privy to with the quarterback, where he's learning everything about this young man, spending the most time with him. So to me, I think that that's something very massive, that relationship continuing to build, now getting to work with Caleb Williams in more of a capacity as an OC, calling practices and doing things like that, maintaining what Ben Johnson's marching orders are as you go through the week, but also having much of a closer relationship with Caleb Williams. I think that's a name that could benefit from taking over this job. And I know a lot of people look at this and just say, oh, well, he's the OC, but he's not calling plays, right? He's just getting the coffee. No, these guys spend a ton of time with these players. So you want to have somebody in there who has a good relationship with your quarterback already. I think JT Barrett would be a phenomenal candidate for the Bears to go out there and get. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. This is one within the organization and a name that I kind of forgot about for a little bit of time here. And I know a lot of people maybe didn't like him because of when he did call plays, but he's got play calling experience. He's got that look ahead experience. That's really what the OC is doing here, looking ahead, scouting the teams, coming back to Ben and saying all those things that Ben did as an OC that now he can't do because he has to divvy those responsibilities out. You want to have somebody in the building that's done that's been prepared in that. And I think the Bears have done a good job of having many coaches that you could say are in that conversation. To me, Press Taylor is a name that would be very interesting. I know a lot of people were very critical when they brought Press Taylor onto the staff, but I mean, realistically speaking, having a guy who is your pass game coordinator, he's looking ahead at, okay, what passes are going to work for us? What do we see as the defense is coming together that we're going to play here? What are we seeing that we feel like we can exploit in this pass game? And on top of that, somebody who's been an offensive coordinator, who has had that experience, who is looking to, again, build their names back up in the proper way, because he's had 2 years with Jacksonville. Listen, those weren't great offenses for you to be calling there, but realistically speaking, I think that you saw a really, you'll see a little bit different version of him with Ben Johnson. But the bottom line is he already understands the job. He already understands what it's going to take for you to do this job well. And now you're taking the play calling duties off of his plate. I think that could be something where if you're the Chicago Bears right now, You've got an OC in the building. You don't have to make this harder than it is. You're not ruffling any feathers because Antwaa Randel doesn't get this job. He's an assistant head coach. Technically, he has a higher position, and he's really good at the job he does. Does it mean that you can't bring somebody like Will Lawing on? Does it mean that you can't bring somebody like Tanner Estranged on, right? And it's all about making sure that you have so many guys that know how to draw these plays up, that can give Ben Johnson different ideas, that can see it from a different standpoint. I think those are the things that you want to have in an offensive coordinator. Realistically speaking, you've got a guy in the building that's done the job before, and you can seamlessly transition into this. Now, if Ben wants to continue to be the teacher, wants to continue to be the developer, wants to be the guy that says, hey, we're going to put you in a great position, and eventually you're going to get a job here where you're going to get to call plays, I think that's great for you to have. But it's also really good to have guys that already know how to do the job, know what the job entails, what to expect from it, where you're not training anybody and you could just pick up and move forward, right? And now you're not shaking up the dynamic of anything anymore. JT Barrett's still your quarterbacks coach. Antwaa Randel still your assistant head coach and wide receivers coach, right? And maybe you bring somebody in from the outside and you say, this is now your job, where we had Press Taylor come in and be the passing game coordinator. As you can see, that can move you up in this world. I think that's a great place for you to be as well, and maybe a name that's a little bit more under talked about in this, alongside JT Barrett, who I think is a really good name as well. Listen, I don't think that you can go wrong here, because realistically speaking, these are guys who, they're not calling the final play, right? We know Ben Johnson is making that final decision. He is the one that is going out there and sending the call in more times than not to Caleb Williams. But I think that you've got some really good names to help Ben Johnson with the job that he has to do as head coach by taking some of those things off of their plate. And you've got guys that have the experience of doing that as well. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. It's your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again, man. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down. One love. Peace.